inwards and say, what is this telling me about myself? Is this something that you can't tolerate even within yourself? And where did that come from? Is it something that you fear happening to you? And then where does that come from?
Friends say the same thing over and over again. They're just not doing anything about it. Like that, like, let's acknowledge that's really hard. You know, there's a lot of power in repetition, actually.
There is, actually, because it reminds me of that analogy of like going around the mountain, but maybe you see the same thing but from a different vantage.
Hi, I'm Dr. Ritz.
And I'm Dr. Vicky.
Welcome to the therapy floor.
Welcome back.
Let's get started.
Yeah. So today's dilemma comes from this individual who says, I have a friend who constantly complains and moans about their problems, whether it's about work, relationships, or life in general. But no matter how much advice or support we offer, they refuse to take any action to change their situation. We all rally around offering solutions and trying to help, but they never seem interested in actually making a change. It's starting to drain me as I feel like I'm putting in a lot of emotional energy without seeing any progress or effort from them. I'm torn between wanting to be supportive and feeling frustrated by their unwillingness to do anything about the issues they keep bringing up.
I think this is a really common and interesting one, and there's so many things going on here. So you can look at it, let's look at it from the perspective of the person that this person is presenting. To me, that looks like a typical presentation of depression. Now, depression can be high functioning, it can be low functioning. So sometimes we often think of people as depressed like they just can't get out of bed.
Yeah.
And that is a part of it, but you can also have people that are depressed that live these lives, but still they don't really see any value, any joy, any purpose in the things that they're doing. So often when you have somebody who's presenting with depression, the people surround them feel energized to get that person energized and to get that person moving. And it sounds like this is what this person is doing. It's like, I need to give all these solutions because this person can't think of the solutions. And this is what you can do to feel better, make your life better. Try this, try that, try this, try that. And it sounds like it keeps being met with resistance and a lack of motivation, like quite hopeless, quite helpless, which is again so typical of depression.
Yeah.
And then I think the really interesting thing about depression is it has the ability to then almost like populate the other people around it. Like it's an energy field that can be so easily picked up on, because this person is saying, I'm putting in so much work or so much emotional energy and I'm not seeing any progress or effort. And I want to be supportive, but I'm feeling so frustrated. I wonder if how your friend is feeling.
Yeah.
Now, the reason I say that is when somebody has presented with depression in my therapy room, and probably in the future when they will present with depression in my therapy room, 100% I have felt how this person feels, because it manifests between the two of you. The feelings that they're carrying, that real heavy burden, it's so easy for that to become then projected into the other person or the vessel. You know, like we've talked about in psychodynamic psychotherapy, we become vessels for other people. And then you carry it and you feel so hopeless and frustrated and empty and I just want to give up.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to do. And we can come on to talking about how we might deal with that in therapy, but I'm wondering what you're feeling.
I'm kind of wondering what your friend is asking for. I'm wondering, what is your friend asking for? And you've kind of taken up the position, as Ritz, you were rightly saying, you know, when people are depressed, we want to shift their energy. So we want to bring the motivation, the hope. But I wonder if that's actually what they want and what they need from you. And I'm not sure how they're presenting themselves in order for them to gain or to collect that support from you and your friends. And And I'm wondering actually whether it sounds like there is a little bit of a judgment here about what they're doing, which is they refuse to take any action. But is that actually an accurate assumption, interpretation of their behaviour? Is it that they are refusing to take action? And your last statement, I'm torn between wanting to be supportive and feeling frustrated by their unwillingness to do anything. Again, that feels like a little bit of a judgment you've made there, and I wonder if that's an accurate representation of what's going on for them. So I'm curious about your role here in taking up the baton to chivvy them along. Are they actually wanting chivvying?
Going a bit deeper with that, I wonder what it feels like for you as a friend to see your friend in this way.
Yeah.
Like, what is it bringing up for you? How is it making you feel? And I wonder if that's driving these behaviours to want to create solutions.
Yeah, because I think that when we can become so invested, irritated, frustrated by something we see in another person, a deficit in another person, it's a good thing to look inwards and say, what is this telling me about myself? Is this something that you can't tolerate even within yourself? And where did that come from? Is it something that you fear happening to you? And then where does that come from?
Has it happened to you?
Has it happened to you? Is it triggering for you in any particular way? So I think it's important to look outwards but also to look in and to think, what is this telling me about myself? This level of feeling that I'm having towards my friend. What's this telling me? I know you want help in thinking about how you can support them or how you can show up better for them, but maybe how you can show up better for them is by thinking, what is this telling me about myself and my friendships and what I expect for my friendships and my relationships?
Use that information.
Yeah. And then I think if you know what your friend is looking for, you then maybe have permission or an outlet or a way in to share with them how you're feeling. I think we have permission in the therapy room because clients are coming to us for a particular issue and we've spoken into their lives in different capacities. So maybe there's an element of trust there and they know what they're getting. But I know that I've had times in the therapy room, I don't know about you, Ritz, when I've worked with a client who is stuck or maybe is depressed and is facing chronic depression. And when I feel that sense of helplessness coming up in me, I pay attention to it, but then I find a way to feed that back to the client to let them know what's coming up for me. Like, you've tried this, you've tried that, this is going on for you, you're feeling hopeless in this arena. And I think what I'm left feeling is like, gosh, this is a lot, isn't it? It's really tough. You feel stuck, or I feel stuck, and I wonder if that's how you're feeling.
Yeah.
And whether me coming up with more and more solutions for you is actually making you feel worse and wanting to push and resist against that. So what do you need right now? And how can I give you that? And sometimes it is just listening and having space for someone's feelings, isn't it?
I often find that when I'm feeling useless, it's because I fall into maybe it is a bit of a trap of trying to motivate,
Fix.
and energize. And actually, often what I notice is once we've kind of fleshed that out a bit, what that client is telling me through all these nuances and a lot of non-verbal communication is, I need for you to listen to me. And that can be a really hard thing to do, to keep listening, especially when you're not professionally trained to do that, to this, I guess what it can sound like is the same thing.
Yeah.
Over and over and over. Like, I'm listening to my friend say the same thing over and over again. They're just not doing anything about it. Like that, like, let's acknowledge that's really hard. It's a really hard thing to do. And if you need a break from that, I think that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
like that's where we're maybe asking you to go inwards a bit and say, what's it bringing up for you? And then what do you also need from this? And rather than trying to project like, well, if I would need it to be fixed, I think they need it to be fixed. So that's what I'm going to do. Well, step away from that. And maybe what you need is a break. And it might even be a suggestion towards, you know, when I see you in this way and I feel so helpless and I want to fix it for you, and I don't think that's what you really need at the moment. I don't know whether like bringing it to me is the best thing to do, because I want to help you so much, and maybe you need a professional to support you through that. So maybe just even encouraging this person to try therapy if they haven't, because like coming back to it, it is a real professional skill to sit and to listen. And I know people in the past have asked me like, well, how do you know how long you listen to it for? And my response to that has always been, they'll just stop talking about it when they don't need to bring it up anymore or to talk about it. Or when they come back and say, this week I actually did this. Like they don't need to go over it. Because on the outset, it might look like they're just going over the same thing. But I wonder if actually what other people aren't seeing is by going over it and over it and over it, like there's this more internal reflection going on.
Yeah, there's more processing going on.
There's more processing going on. It reminds me of when I used to deliver this, when I used to work in an inpatient hospital and I used to deliver an emotional regulation workshop.
Yeah.
And I did the same workshop every Friday. And it would be interesting to see, like, people kept coming back to that workshop, even though they'd already been to it. And the feedback was, I learned something new this time. Even though you said the exact same thing you said last week, I took something else away.
Yeah, yeah.
So, you know, there's a lot of power in repetition, actually.
There is, actually, because it reminds me of that analogy of, like, going around the mountain, but maybe you see the same thing but from a different vantage point. If you're higher up the mountain, if you're further down, you're still seeing the same thing. You're still coming back to that same space, but something is changing, or that your perception of that situation is changing, or your processing has changed. Or maybe on your way round back the mountain, you've experienced something that has enabled you to reflect on it in a different way or uncover a different layer. So yeah, I think there is a huge benefit in repetition. But it's also okay if you know that you can't handle that you also look out after yourself. And if it's starting to drain you, tap into what you need. It doesn't mean that you're a bad friend and that you can't be supportive, but at least you know for yourself what your capacity is.
I love that you acknowledge that this person isn't a bad friend, because they don't have the capacity to do that. Because sometimes I think we fall into like this thinking of we have to be everything for everyone.
Yeah.
And actually acknowledging our own like humanness and fallibilities, and I don't have the skill to give you what you need right now.
Yeah.
But I think this person or this professional or this clinic, well, I don't know, whatever it might be, could be the thing that you know you could use. But that's up to you, whether you use that or not. That's up to you.
Yeah.
Like, we're still friends. I still love you. I'm still here for you. But
I do think there is some sensitivity on the way that you broach this, because I know a lot of people have the fear of, I can't burden my friends with this again. And if the message we're sharing is, don't allow your friends to burden you, that's not what we're trying to say. But have some sensitivity around how you support your friend to get support, appropriate support.
yeah.
Rather than shutting it down and saying, I can't deal with this.
Yeah.
Take it elsewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. Be mindful of how you say that.
I think if you let compassion be the key in guiding you.
Yeah. How would I like to be told this?
Yeah. And that you just keep remembering you're coming from a place of love and openness. Like, that can hopefully keep it open and going.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because what else is in your friendship? that isn't defined by this characteristic at the moment. Like, what else do you love about your friend?
That's a good thing to think about, isn't it? Because this can feel so all-consuming, but actually is there more to the friendship, to the quality of the friendship?
Yeah. And sometimes that's an easy way in. So it might not necessarily be about like the way you're doing, which is try this and try that, but to just acknowledge like the other parts of them. So even if they're like maybe saying, oh, and this happened and then that happened and this happened and then that happened, to maybe like reflect back and, I don't know, to say something like, oh, I really admire like how you solved that. Like I hadn't thought of it like that. That was an interesting, you know, to actually listen and hear. Because I think sometimes we're already like prepped with, oh, it's going to go down this route again.
Yeah, and it may not.
No, and we may just shut off. But if you can have like fresh eyes, curiosity, and just openness to it, and just, because I wonder if your friend has like also maybe with how they're feeling, like forgotten who they are because this is all consuming.
Yeah.
And so if you can start to notice it in a way where it's not like you have to do this, but like I see this in you, that might just be the little like sparks or nuggets.
Yeah. And I also want to come back and actually validate how you may be feeling, even though I'm putting it to you as though you may be making a judgment. But it may just be the case that this person, your friend, does like to complain. And that's what they are doing. They may not be depressed. They may be actually just complaining and complaining a lot. And I want to validate how frustrating that can feel. So if that is the case, I'm wondering how you can phrase this to them, how you can bring this up to them. And maybe I say, you know, we've spoken about this before. Like, if it doesn't feel like your feelings are changing about work or about your relationship, what do you want to do about it? Do you want to do anything about it? Or like, are you okay just to continue talking about it? And that may sound actually quite an affront. But would you say that to your friend? I think you would. No, I feel like you said that to me before. in so many words. But it may actually be worth, without any judgment, just being real. Like, it seems like this continues to be an issue for you. Do you want to do something about it, or are you okay? Do you just want to talk about it?
You're giving them the responsibility back.
Yeah.
Aren't you? To make a choice then. Yeah.
Yeah. Which may feel a bit jarring, but that's also a possibility.
Yeah.
That they actually may find comfort in complaining, and maybe they're afraid of making a change. And it's coming across in this way. Yeah,
see, I'm going to challenge that a little bit, because I still think like the complaining it's a symptom of something deeper.
Yeah.
So I do think it might not be like full on depression, but I think there's an unhappiness there.
Oh, sure.
Like someone who is always like complaining.
For sure.
So I think when we're looking at responsibility here now, and you look at this maybe person's or people's defense mechanisms of like when they show up as complain and blame, I think a real powerful technique here is to just keep handing that baton back and that responsibility back to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like, okay, like what do you want to do about it?
Yeah.
Or what do you think the next step could be?
Yeah. Or like, okay, if it doesn't work for you like this, how could it work for you?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't have to do it. I'm not the guru. I don't have the answers.
Yeah.
That's up to you now. So I think we've covered it from a few different angles of like the human experience of it, the professional way we might look at it, the different dimensions of it. Yeah, I hope that's given you a few things to think about.
Yeah, I hope so too. Thank you for sharing with us. As always, feel free to send in your dilemmas to hello@thetherapyfloor.com. And
we'll see you in part 2.
yeah, bye.
Bye.